We just heard Jerome Powell deliver a speech in Chicago. Bitcoin was up nicely leading up to that speech. You can see here on the chart, Bitcoin was as high as 85.6, was up 2% on the day. S&P was down on the day. NASDAQ was down on the day, but you can see exactly what happened when Jerome Powell started speaking. Bitcoin gave up close to 2.6% at the max, then recovered to now, at the time of him finishing the speech, being down 1.5%. Oh, we should have just kicked him off stage sooner. Look, markets were worried about inflation and the effect tariffs would have on inflation. Jerome Powell did come out and he said tariffs could cause transitory inflation, but those could be more persistent. And he gave the examples of automakers. This got markets worried that inflation could be a lot more sticky and less transitory than we believed. Do you remember when Jerome Powell said that the COVID and the pandemic inflation would be transitory? Yeah. Well, 5 to 6 years on, we're still fighting that very same inflation. Markets are now getting flashbacks to that event and are worried that any inflation that occurs from the tariff nightmare may actually be a lot more longer lasting than we expected and delay our hopes and dreams of a rate cut. Again, I turn you to the Fed rate monitor tool, where the market does not expect us to get a rate cut at the next meeting from the Fed in 3 weeks' time. The interviewer did not ask him about rate cuts. He answered the question for him and said, "You wouldn't even tell us if you know," and then proceeded to ask him what his daily routine was, which I thought was a bit of a waste of time. So look, markets aren't pricing in a rate cut. They are pricing one in, however, for June, which would be our first rate cut here. Hold up! Do you want to learn how to trade? Then you need to jump into our Telegram community. Link is in the description. In our Telegram community, I share my altcoins. I share how I do my trade setups, how I do my stop losses and take profit, so you can learn to become a profitable trader. Check it out. Link is in the description. Of the year, and markets are looking towards that. However, if things change between now and then to do with the inflation numbers, as the tariff new pricing comes into play, that could be kicked down the road, and that is what investors are now starting to get a little bit worried about. If we come to the daily chart on Bitcoin, it causes a little bit of a problem, right? We were trying to get a nice strong candle here that would give us back our daily EMA ribbon. Yesterday we were so close, we were above 86, we hit 86.5. Today we were doing okay, we hit 85.5 with a nice big 2% green candle, but given up during the Jerome Powell speech. So look, Jerome Powell did say growth has slowed somewhat. He said markets are orderly, functioning just about as you would expect them to function. And I think that's particularly what's irritating, is that outside of Trump doing what Trump did, we were in an otherwise quite a safe and strong economy. Jerome Powell was actually, putting the eye through the, whatever they call it, through the needle, right? He was getting that soft landing. He was doing the impossible, and we were going to avert recession to all intents and purposes. Now, that's less obvious, right? You got the likes of JP Morgan giving us a 60% probability of being in recession. In fact, we could be in a recession now, and when the data comes out, it will become more apparent, maybe later on, that we are living through a recession right now. So these are all the things that are playing onto the minds of investors right now. Bears continue to be in control here on the Bitcoin price, unfortunately, until we can get that daily candle close above 86,000. But things are looking okay. I mean, if you look at it outside of the speech, if I was giving this analysis before the speech, things were looking strong. We created a little bit of a double bottom. We bounced here, and it looked like we wanted to go fight 86K again. And then the Jerome Powell speech just gave us this horrible hourly candlestick to throw us to the downside. We have managed to recover some of it, and hopefully by the time I've uploaded this video and you guys are watching it, we've recovered some of this as well. But that's where we're at right now. Jerome Powell not giving us any thoughts around a rate cut, and also kind of worrying markets around inflation being a lot more sticky, because the reality is once tariffs go into the ecosystem, they're very hard to unwind. I think Jerome Powell was alluding to the same, right? Once you start to put these things into place, they become very nested and entangled in the economy. It's not as simple as you think when you've got an automotive manufacturer with suppliers across the globe now having to pay these new higher tariffs in different regions. It leads to higher prices for consumers. It leads to inflation for companies which do have pricing power to pass it on to consumers, and that ultimately is going to affect the economy. So key moment here for Bitcoin. We're still in this decisive moment, right? We're still in this decisive moment where if we can reclaim the daily EMA ribbon, that is great. But it's important. It's important to understand that we're not out of the woods yet, right? The EMA ribbon on the daily chart is still owned by the bears who have a bias. They could easily shove us to the downside here, and we could be heading back down to 76. Just a reminder for all you guys who are still sitting there in high leverage positions, $290 million wrecked in the last 24 hours. Please don't be a statistic. In this crazy couple of days and weeks we've had here, look at the wicks on these candles. These types of days are designed to wreck you, where 1 minute you're 86.5 and then you're down, and then 1 minute you're 85.5 and then you're down. Market makers are printing, guys, 300 million in 24 hours, right? And they're taking that from you guys who are being overzealous on your long. So trade patiently, be strategic, focus on your long-term portfolio, try to build your positions, and you'll be able to navigate through this stressful period. But other than that, we're good, right? We're good. I still think we'll come out of this and we'll emerge. I still feel positive that at some point Trump will strike deals with the major partners. And once he's done that, I think we're ready. We're back. I think this market has shown enough that when it gets a little bit of good news, it's giving us green candles, which show us that the market, to all intents and purposes, just wants certainty around this tariff situation. Once it has it, I don't think there's anything holding us back. I think we're ready to return on Bitcoin, work back to 90 and 100 and then beyond, because this market is ready to move. You can see that on any bit of good news we get, Bitcoin is green candlesticking. Even today, when the traditional markets were down, Bitcoin was green candlesticking. And that's really, really impressive, that when you've got the S&P falling 2% and the NASDAQ falling 3%, that Bitcoin was up 2%. That's incredible. It shows that people are looking for somewhere safe to put their money, and that is ending up being in two things. One is gold, which has just hit a record of 3,300. Absolutely unstoppable. Look at this daily candle here on gold. That's a daily candle on gold. 3.3%. Bitcoin was up 2% at the time. Bitcoin gave up its gains while Jerome Powell was talking, but gold didn't, right? People are looking for hard places to flock their money. They don't want to be in fiat currency. They don't want to be in the dollar given the trade war tensions and the stress that's going on right now. They're looking at Bitcoin. They're looking at gold. Hopefully you found this useful, guys. If you like the live stream, make sure you go check that out on Kick. I streamed the whole thing on Kick, so go check that out. If you are watching on Kick right now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.